Morning. The clock is 1 minute past 9, and myself, I have a background in boxing, so I always say, if you are more than 60 seconds late to the ring, you are disqualified. So we need to start. But good morning and welcome to this morning's plenary session on innovation, sustainability, and future directions in Olympic and Paralympic sport. And I guess you might already have caught this, but the topic of today's session is based on a research collaboration between the University of Inland Norway and Nord University in northern Norway and Aarhus University in Denmark. And this collaboration has resulted in this wonderful new research anthology, which was actually published earlier this month. And of course, this book would never have been possible without our wonderful colleagues from LUSK, the Lillehammer Olympic and Paralympic Study Center, the Response Research Group at Nord University, and also several international colleagues who have contributed with their knowledge, their research, and their time. So LUSK, I guess you've already had an introduction to, but it's a research group here at the University of Inland Norway, which collaborates closely with the Norwegian Olympic Museum, which we were so lucky to be hosted by the first evening of the conference. And LUSK was founded in 2018, and it's the only Olympic Study Center in the Nordic region. And most of the internal staff at LUSK is connected to the sport management program here at the university. Response is an interdisciplinary research group at Nord University. Nord University is I jokingly call it the longest university in Norway, but it's actually true because we have 9 campuses. And I think it would take you around 17 hours to drive from the most southern to the most northern campus. So that gives you some insights into rural Norway. But Response was also founded in 2018, and the members of the Response group is connected to a variety of disciplines: sociology, pedagogics, sports coaching, history, management, and human resource management. So who are we, and why are we here? And why have we been given the honor to give this plenary? First and foremost, we are 2 of the 3 editors of this book. Erik is the 3rd one, as I'm sure you all know him very well. My name is Tjønndal. I'm a professor at Nord University in Bodø. I'm the head of the Response group. And I always say that academically, I will never be an expert of anything because I found everything about sport interesting. So if you Google me, I think you will see some different topics, let's say. And of course, with me I have Svein Erik.
Yes, my name is Svein Nordhagen, and I'm an associate professor here at this university. I'm also the head of the Bachelor of Sport Management program at the university, and also one of the local hosts, along with my colleague Stina. And regarding to research, my interests are mainly leadership in sport and events, and also with the main focus on the Olympic movement, which is also the topic for today.
Yeah, so back to the book. This book draws on multidisciplinary research from sociology, history, political science, pedagogics, technology studies, and it delves into the transformation of Olympic and Paralympic sport. So in this book, you will find contributions that discusses the impact of technological innovations on athlete performance, event organization, and fan engagement. You will also find that it addresses the unique role of sport in shaping social and national identities, including those of marginalized communities. And by examining both the past and the future of Olympic and Paralympic sport, this anthology provides insights into how sport organizations navigate the modernization of global landscapes. So there are some key premises here. First and foremost, the book is based on the premise that Olympic and Paralympic sports develops through a constant balance between tradition and innovation. And understanding this balance provides insight into how sport evolves while preserving its historical and cultural significance. So in other words, while examining the links between sustainability, innovation, and technology, it may help us examine and explain sport's broader societal role. So for instance, how may sport contribute to environmental sustainability or to developing democratic and inclusive societies around the world? There are 3 parts to this book. Part 1 is titled Transformations in Olympic Cultures and Identities, and it examines how different actors within the Olympic movement navigate cultural and social change, focusing on identity, inclusion, and legacy. So the chapters here include the governance of Olympic legacy at the organizational level and perspectives on indigenous inclusion, national identities among spectators, and athlete support systems at an individual level. And together, these contributions offers insight into the ongoing tensions between heritage and adaptation in global sport. And it does this by illustrating how traditions and societal transformations shape the cultural fabric of the Olympic movement. The second part is titled Innovation and Technologies and explores how innovation drives change in Olympic and Paralympic sport. It highlights both the successes and failures of Olympic innovation. So these chapters addresses the IOC's response to rival sport movements, the Olympic Youth Games as a testing ground for innovation, technological innovations in refereeing, post-human perspectives on parasport, and lessons learned from innovation failures. Together, these chapters show how technological and organizational innovations create opportunities for progress while exposing both structural and ethical limitations. And the third part, titled Sustainability, addresses critical perspectives on sustainability related to Olympic and Paralympic sport, examining how mega events intersect with environmental, social, and political agendas. And these chapters also analyze the implementation of IOC's Agenda 2020. There are also contributions on the ecological regeneration of Paris 2024, the fragility of peace legacies, and the environmental innovations linked to major sport events. So these chapters show the potentials and the limitations of sports events as catalysts for the implementation of sustainability goals. And we already had a themed session about the book yesterday, where 5 of these chapters were presented. So when we were kind of deciding how to frame this lecture, we decided that we will not kind of go through the research presented in each of these chapters, since some of it, or about a little less than half of the book was presented yesterday. So instead, we decided that we will spend this time to give a presentation more on the overarching theme of the book, which is transformations in Olympic and Paralympic sport. And with that, Svein will give an introduction.
Yes. We will still bring in many of the chapters, not all the chapters, but we will use the studies that we have in the book. Yeah, to start with the main lecture, since the establishment of the modern sport in the mid-1800s, sport practices and have adapted to changing political context, competing sport movements, new audiences, global economic forces. And in more recent times, increasing uncertainty driven by political tension, climate change, technological developments, and shifting in social values has intensified pressure on organizations and sporting events. And therefore, we can argue that sport does not exist in isolation, but it's shaped by external pressure that needs ongoing adaptations and innovations. In this presentation, we analyze the transformations of the Olympic movements in the light of three key mechanisms. That is external pressure, which is outside forces that creates demands on the Olympic movement, and especially the IOC. Organizational responses, which is how the IOC respond and adapt to this pressure, often through innovation. And institutional constraints, which means what limits and shapes these responses. To give some context to the discussion later, we will start with a reminder of some key transformations within the Olympic history, focusing on the recent history, and we will try to show how pressure leads to these transformations. But we will still start with the beginning, because when Pierre de Coubertin founded the International Olympic Committee in 1894, followed by the first games in 2 years later, the sport and the world was very different than today. Coubertin also founded Olympism, which is a philosophy that sees sport as a tool for education, moral and social development. The ideal was that sport should be fair competition between amateurs, creating peace, collaboration, and mutual understanding between people and nations. These values are still reflected in the IOC vision today, which is to build a better world through sport. That's quite ambitious goals, I have to say. And also the key values are excellence, friendship, and respect. But throughout its more than 130-year-long history, these ideas have been repeatedly challenged and leading to minor and major transformations. And this is possibly the main transformation in the Olympic history, the commercialization of Olympic sport. So we take the historical jump to the 1980s, when the rising cost of the games resulted in high expenses and debt for the host cities and also the host nations. In response, the IOC introduced a commercial model that was based on sponsorships and broadcasting rights. And this started in the Los Angeles Games in 1984 with sponsors, official sponsors, and that turned the IOC into a very wealthy organization, and also helped the host to increase their income when hosting the games. Over the following years, the rules of amateurism was also gradually abandoned, and professional athletes were allowed to compete in the games. And this way we can see that economic pressure transformed Olympic sport and forced the IOC to make these commercial strategies. From the 1990s and into the 2000s and 2010s, we saw that the Olympic Games expanded further in scale and reach and costs. And these games was transformed into mega events with growing economic, political, and cultural significance. The period was marked by an increasing number of participants, nations, athletes, sports, and events. So host cities had to invest a lot in infrastructure and urban development, and the cost of the games increased rapidly. Entering the 2010s, this development began to generate criticism and decline among hosts or potential hosts for the games. So less cities and nations, countries wanted to host the games, and that was a problem. So in response to these challenges, the IOC launched the Olympic Agenda 2020, which we will come back to later. Another development, the last one we will discuss here, was related to youth, engaging youth in the Olympic movement. Because two things concerned the IOC. First, the interest in Olympic sport among young people decreased. Competing sport movements, especially the X Games, as you see here, challenged the traditional format of Olympic Games with new and more action-related sports. And also, second, the IOC was criticized for moving away from these educational goals and neglecting the education of athletes and young people. And in response to these challenges, the IOC made several initiatives, but the main initiative, or one of the main initiatives, was the establishment of the Youth Olympic Games, which we also will come back to later. Yeah, so we will take a little step to the side, and then we will talk a little bit about the Lillehammer Games, and we also will bring that into the discussion. Because these games were organized in a time where commercialization, of increasing commercialization, but before the scale and cost of the games became too high for a small city to host the games. Yeah, so we'll use this as a case, but this is also relevant due to the location of the conference. So we will bring some more information on the Olympic Games. When I went on the walk yesterday, I understood that there was some interest in the Olympics in Lillehammer. Yeah, we can say that Lillehammer is an unusual host city, and stand out from most Olympic hosts in history, I think. Despite already being a popular winter sport destination, it was quite unusual that a small city with about 24,000 people before the games should host a big event like this. Initiated by the tourism industry and a combination of good work by the bid committee and quite a lot of luck, I think, Lillehammer was awarded the Olympic Games. And this was quite an unexpected decision. When Samaranch was handed the envelope or presented the decision that Lillehammer won the bid, he afterwards said to the secretary that you gave me the wrong envelope, highlighting how surprising and probably unpopular this decision was within the leadership in the IOC and probably part of the Olympic movement, and especially in Sweden. They were quite angry with us because they also had a bid we were competing against Sweden actually to win, and they expected to win, but that didn't happen. And this is maybe a bit unknown. It's part of this Olympic Games because there was quite a lot of controversies just before the game started. Because the organizing committee faced several challenges before the games began, including national criticism, budget overrun, and conflicts between the organizing committee and the IOC. And also, the IOC received a lot of criticism from athletes, from Norwegian athletes, from Norwegians in general. And it was quite a lot of conflicts. And according to the president of the organizing committee, Gerhard Heiberg, we actually did interview him, so we got this from him. Samaranch and the IOC was seriously considering canceling the games just days before it started. But after having a meeting with the board, they decided to extend or postpone the decision until after the opening ceremony. And in the meantime, a dinner invitation from the Norwegian king and a speech by the prime minister helped ease concerns among Samaranch and IOC members. So, following the successful opening ceremony up in Lysgårdsbakken, Samaranch agreed to go on with the games. And these games are considered to be among the most successful in Olympic history. Even Samaranch gave in and declared them the best Olympic Games ever. And this success stems from a well-organized event, unique festival atmosphere, and very good winter weather in Lillehammer. So it was quite lucky as well. But part of the strong reputation that Lillehammer got, or the games got, was about the legacies. So the book discusses, 2 book chapters discuss this legacy. So we will see the positive sides of the legacy, and we also will discuss some of the more problematic sides of this legacy. So we'll start with sustainability. The games is known as the first green games. Despite no environmental plan before the games, several environmental initiatives were taken before the event and implemented in the games. But while these strategies those were related to renewable energy and waste management and things like that, these strategies were innovative in 1990 standards, but the effectiveness has been debated later. As colleagues Jon Helge Lesjø and Frida Vågan argue in the book chapter, the Lillehammer Games played a key role in the placing environmental sustainability on the Olympic agenda. The IOC defined environmental or sustainability as the 3rd pillar of the Olympic movement shortly afterwards. And at the local level, these games helped the local company Glør into a leading waste management innovator, and later become an important partner for many sporting events. In the book chapter written together with Trine Syversen and Jon Helge Lesjø as the main author, we identified 5 key legacy dimensions: facility maintenance, event hosting, spectator culture, youth development, and diversification of use. This was also presented in the session yesterday, so it will be some repetition for the ones who was there. But we will start with the venues, because before the event, Lillehammer didn't have any venues that was ready to host the games. So 12 bigger venues needed to be built, and 5 of them in Lillehammer. And these are the 5 we saw some of them today. No, yesterday, I mean at the walk. But after the games, the responsibility of maintaining these venues was assigned to Lillehammer Olympia Park, which we also met yesterday. And this is a company, but it's owned by the municipality. And after this fund was empty, there was a fund established to maintain the venues that was empty in like 12 years ago. The maintenance were increasingly relying on public funding. However, 30 years later, or now, we see that all these venues are maintained and hold an international standard. Moving to events, the result of, well, it's a high number of events going on in Lillehammer and the region. So we have had more than 600 international and national sporting events since 1994. These are World Championships, World Cups, and also we had Youth Olympic Games in 2016. Despite the high number of events, there has been problems with attracting spectators. And many of these events have quite low number of spectators. And of course, this can partly be explained by a less populated region. Inland region, the county of Inland, is bigger than Denmark, but it has only 380,000 people, inhabitants. But in addition to the sporting events, the events are also used for mass sport, for recreational activities, and tourism. And this non-sport activities help to justify the use of public funding on maintaining these facilities. For example, the venues that was facilitating the opening on Wednesday, the Nordhagen, the Cultural Hall, the Olympic Museum was built for the Games. And also the campus that we are in now was rebuilt and used as a broadcasting center during the Games. So the number of students went from 600 before the Games to 3,000 after the Games. And today it's about 5,000. So that it did mean a lot for the university as well. We probably wouldn't be a university if it wasn't for the Games, maybe. Yeah, I will just close this part off by saying that it is possible for a small city to host a big event like the Olympic Games and sustain the legacy over time, and also sustain a positive legacy. But at the same time, it highlights the challenges of maintaining venues that were designed for a big event in a small city. Although Olympia Park, the company, covered close to 70% of the costs, this model remains dependent on public funding from the municipality mainly. So around 1 million euros is funded from the municipality every year. And to take a critical view, this money could be used on other purposes. It could be used for schools, for healthcare, and so on. Yes?
Thank you. Yeah, so Svein Erik talked a bit about some of these transformations that the Olympic movement have gone through, of course, very broadly, and taking some specific points through history, and anchoring it, of course, in the Olympic city that we find ourselves in. And of course, transformations are closely related to innovations. They go hand in hand in many ways, because innovations can be a response to political or social transformations in society. And disruptive innovations can also bring about transformations in society. So it makes sense to kind of move over to the innovation side. So I think it's appropriate to start here. What is actually innovation? Because research on innovation and innovation literature and innovation theory is quite extensive, and it encompasses very many different perspectives and definitions, ranging from very broad and vague concepts to very narrow and normative definitions. And because of this, it might not be surprising that the innovation term and innovation research and innovation literature has been criticized for being too abstract, much like the concept of sustainability. So within both innovation literature and sustainability literature, if you read a lot and engage a lot with these fields, at some point you will think, okay, innovation is everything, or sustainability is everything, if you do not take a critical stance to it. So my PhD, or more than 10 years ago, but my PhD was on innovation. And when I started my engagement with innovation research during my PhD studies, one of the first things I set out to do was actually figure out what innovation was. So I started in this very simple way with the Google picture searches. So these pictures are results from Google image searches of innovation. And I think it's kind of funny, because if you read innovation theory, you can get very confused as to what innovation is and is not. But if you rely on Google, it's very simple. Innovation is light bulbs, men in suits, and surprising in many cases of men in suits looking very intently at light bulbs. So I kind of, as a PhD student, of course, my topic was sport. So I had to move from what is innovation to what is innovation in sport, or sport innovation. So, okay, if innovation is men in suits and light bulbs and men in suits looking at light bulbs, what about sports? And again, these two images are actually from the Google picture searches I did a long time ago as a PhD student. And from this search, I learned two things. Sport innovation is about technology, and specifically about VR goggles. So again, it can seem very complex if you read the literature, but at least according to what Google's algorithms thought about me in 2015, it's quite simple. Of course, this is kind of light-hearted way of going into this topic, but I do think whichever theoretical concept or abstract concept we are working on, these Google picture searches are quite useful, because they tell us something about the associations we have with this broader perspectives. So if we go a bit more academically into the topic of innovation and sport innovation, what is it? Of course, innovation is not a new phenomenon. I would say that innovation is a set of theoretical perspectives or a theoretical tradition that is aimed to understand change and transformation. That is how I work with innovation theories. And the innovation term originates from the field of economics, and specifically the works of Josef Schumpeter. And Schumpeter, he described innovation as a new commodity, a new product, a new method of production, or a new market, a new materials, or a new way of organizing a company. So in this original Schumpeterian understanding of innovation, commercialization and the development of products is central. So for something to be an innovation, it needs to be commercialized and introduced to a market, which of course makes this theoretical and research field closely related to business, management and economics. And I would say that this history or tradition still very much influence innovation research today. If we move to innovations in sport, and this ties into this plethora of innovation perspectives. So for Schumpeter, innovation was a product, something commercial, a new market. Since then, we have seen quite a big development of theories. So if you start to look into innovation theory, you would see that innovations can be organizational, they can be social, they can be radical or incremental, they can be technological, process-oriented, product-oriented, and I could go on and on and on with these terms. So again, is innovation everything and nothing? But of course, many of these ways of understanding innovation, or if we see these terms as perspectives to analyze and understand transformation and change in sport, they are relevant. We do have social change through sport. We do have top-down initiated change in sport or bottom-up change in sport. In this presentation, and this ties of course into the book, we focus on organizational innovation and technological innovation, because a lot of the chapters in the book deals with examples of these types of innovation in sport. So talking about organizational innovation, the book has two examples of organizational innovation in sport. And both of these, we can say, developed as a response to external pressure. The first is the Olympic Agenda 2020, and the second is the Youth Olympic Games. So in 2014, the IOC introduced the Olympic Agenda 2020 in response to challenges of rising costs, few bid cities, and demands for better plans for sustainability. So this ties into the transformations that Svein Erik was talking about earlier. And the agenda is a set of reform initiatives aimed at making the Olympic Games more sustainable and flexible. And specifically, it seeks to reduce costs by simplifying the bidding process. And a big part of this is encouraging the use of existing venues and emphasizing long-term legacy planning. So more than a decade after the introduction of the Olympic agenda, we can observe some significant changes in the bidding process for the Games and in the organizing of the Olympic Games. And both of these have relevance for economic and environmental sustainability. In the book, our colleague Maja Nilsen writes a chapter on the implementation of the Olympic Agenda 2020 in the Paris Games. And she highlights how, on one hand, the Games represent a clear step forward for sustainability with significant emissions reductions and extensive use of existing and temporary venues, and a strong focus on venue legacy. And this illustrates how the policies of the ILC, so you can think of this as a top-down innovation, can drive incremental changes. At the same time, these successful outcomes, of course, depend heavily on organizational innovation at the local level, which requires collaboration, institutionalization, and structural reforms in the host city. Another example from the book is a chapter by Sean Heath and Dagmar Dahl on how the Paris Games hosted the triathlon event using the River Seine and the open water swimming. Thank you, Dagmar. And in this way, the Games accelerated the water infrastructure improvements and opened new public recreation sites for swimming. And the achievement of hosting the swimming events in this newly cleaned river demonstrates both the promise and the complexity of leveraging the Olympic Games for sustainable urban futures. And since Svein Erik's PhD was on the Youth Olympic Games, I think it's appropriate that you
Thank you.
Go into this.
Try to be short. Another example. Another example of organizational innovation is the Youth Olympic Games, which can be seen as an innovation by itself. Being the first new IOC event since the establishment of the Winter Olympic Games in 1924. So it's not that often that the IOC established a new event. These games are an international elite sport event for youth between 15 and 18 with integrated programs for sport, education, and culture. And sport competitions are supposed to be equal to the education. And these games was designed to revitalize the values of Olympism and re-engage youth in Olympic sport, which I was mentioning earlier. The sport program consists of both traditional and new sport. While the new educational program include both sport skills development activities and life skills development activities, which is more related to the values of Olympism. In addition, other innovations were introduced, such as live streaming, social media engagement, and urban events. When you saw that Paris had the opening ceremony in the city, that city center, that actually happened in Buenos Aires Youth Olympic Games a few years later. So in my book chapter, I examine the Youth Olympic Games as a platform for innovation while focusing on the sport program, sport innovation, and the educational program. To start with the sport, because what I found was that the Youth Olympic Games has been an effective testing ground for sport by introducing a lot of new sport disciplines, mixed gender events, and also mixed national team events. Examples include youth sport like skateboarding, sport climbing, new disciplines such as 3-against-3 basketball, BMX, freestyle biking. And several of these sport disciplines and mixed gender events have been introduced in the Olympic Games after being introduced in the Youth Olympic Games, or after being tested out in the Youth Olympic Games. While the mixed team events have been taken out of the Youth Olympic Games program and not introduced in the Olympic Games. So this refers to the discussion we have had earlier in this conference. In this way, Youth Olympic Games is, for the IOC, a controlled environment for testing out innovations before introducing them to the big stage, to the Olympic Games. Well, the IOC placed education as equal to sport. Studies have shown that the high performance context of an elite sport event, such as the Youth Olympic Games has constrained the educational outcomes. So over time, the program has been scaled down and reoriented towards more sport-specific and career-related activities, and less emphasis on value-based education or life skills activities. Balancing these diverse goals in an international elite sport event turn out to be challenging for the IOC to achieve. So the Youth Olympic Games has gradually evolved in the direction of traditional Olympic model with stronger emphasis on specialization and high performance. And also at the moment, it's uncertainty about the future of the Youth Olympic Games, because the IOC has postponed the decision about who's going to host the 2030 Games. And they also are reconsidering the concept of the Youth Olympic Games, as well the concept of or how they're going to approach or make a new youth strategy. So the Youth Olympic Games have succeeded in some way, but mainly in being a testing ground for sports for new Olympic sports.
Yeah. So moving on to technological transformations and innovations in the Olympic movement, I think perhaps one of the reasons that I kind of made a point about sport innovation is VR goggles. One of the reasons that people tend to imagine technology when they hear the word innovation is that technological innovations are, of course, very visible and easy to identify at first glance, at least compared to organizational reforms and organizational innovations. And of course, in an Olympic and Paralympic context, technological innovations are often associated with sports equipment. So they are actually constitutional of sports. Without technological innovations, there would be no sports. Without bicycles, there would be no cycling, for instance. And secondly, there are or an area of technological innovation that has a lot of focus recently is refereeing and sports officiating. So in this sense, technological innovations in sports is developed to enhance performance and enhance athlete safety or fairness of competitions. And because of this, technological innovations, they often bring about not only transformations, but controversy and contestation. And I think the Paralympics is a good example or arena where this is visible. Because technological innovations in sports equipment for Paralympians frequently challenge and reinforce established norms about disability. And the classification system of the competitions in the Paralympics shows this very well. So in the book, there is also a chapter about technological innovations and Paralympians. So the point is that for each of the Olympic Games or the Paralympic Games, there seems to be some kind of contestation or controversy surrounding technological innovations. And from these controversies, it's very notable that technological innovations in sport, they bring about debates about the values, the ethics, and the virtues of sport. Because even if a novel technology may prove more efficient and safe for athletes, it is sometimes regulated or even banned. And these cases show that technical efficiency is not sufficient to guarantee the success of a technological innovation in the Olympic or Paralympic movement. And in the book, there is a chapter that Daniele Canini and I wrote together that show that many innovations fail, not necessarily because they are ineffective, but because they conflict with deeply embedded values such as fairness, equality, or the idea of natural athletic performance. And there are two cases that show this very well. It's the introduction or the use of polyurethane swimsuit in the Olympics, which is discussed in the chapter, and the use of carbon fiber prostheses in the Paralympic athletics. And both of these technological innovations in sport equipment, they significantly enhance athlete performance. So looking at technical efficiency, they are a success. But swimsuits and these prostheses are rejected because they are perceived to undermine fairness or because of unequal access and costs related to the technology. So this balancing act between technological innovation, ethical values, and the authenticity of human performance might be some of the reason that the Olympic movement find themselves challenged by alternative global events, such as the enhanced games. And it may be also that as a response to these kind of challengers, or maybe just as a way of keeping up with transformations in society, the IOC is also often quite proactive in cultivating innovation and the governance of technological innovation. And there are many examples of this, such as the increased use of AI in content creation and fan engagement during the games, or the introduction of the Olympic esports series and the Olympic virtual series, or the policy documents such as the Olympic AI agenda. So, what can we draw from this?
Yes, we will try to make some conclusions. As we argued in the beginning, we can understand the transformations in the Olympic movement as a result of an interplay between external pressure, organizational responses, and institutional constraints. And as we have seen, change is often driven by external forces, economical pressure, shifting social values, technological developments, and sustainability demands. And in response to these pressure, we have given examples of many innovations, such as new commercial model, reform programs such as the Agenda 2020, a new event format such as the Youth Olympic Games, new sport disciplines, and several technological solutions. Our examples also show several failed innovations. Technological innovations may enhance the performance, but as Anne said, still fail because they conflict with values, important values, such as fairness and the ideal of natural performance. In the YOG case, the educational outcomes was constrained by the high performance nature of an elite sport event. A key point is that successful transformations or innovations within the Olympic system is not only about developing good ideas, but about maintaining legitimacy, meaning that having support from key actors within the sport movement our Olympic movement and also in the society. At the same time, transformation processes are constrained by traditions. The Olympic movement is shaped by some powerful institutional framework. The original values of Olympism has continuously been contested and sometimes redefined, but they still set some boundaries for change and for innovation. The Olympic Games are deeply rooted in traditions such as rituals, symbols, and ceremonies, as well as a strong governance structure and dependency on this commercial model. So taken together, the innovations within Olympic movements are often a result of external pressure. They appear reactive, often appear reactive rather than proactive. While the IOC has shown the will and ability to adapt, the institutional constraints within the movement may explain why innovations are often gradual and incremental rather than radical. Looking forward, the Olympic movement will continue to face pressure and challenges that threatens its survival. The future survival of the Olympic movement depends on its ability and willingness to adapt to shifting circumstances while still be consistent with their own values and traditions. So we close this presentation here, and then after, and then now, Anne will have a surprise for you. So thank you for listening.
So a teaching tradition I have is that whenever I teach about a subject that I published a book on, I always host a quiz and give away the book. So I thought, why not do the same? So we made a quiz about the lecture, and the person who wins, or we have 3 prizes. But of course, the first prize is the book itself. So we have, first prize is the book. Second prize is a notebook from Response. And you have to explain what this is.
I'm not quite sure. It has something to do with recharging the phone.
Bamboo desk organizer, 5V wireless charger.
Yeah, it says Inland University on it, so it's a gift from the university. And the third place is just this one. So 3 first places will receive a gift. I'm sure you all have tried Kahoot, so it's gone. I have to prepare you that when Anne makes a Kahoot, it's not necessarily the one with the best knowledge who wins. So, so there might be some questions that you might not know the answer to, or is related to the presentation or sport at all. But that's the fun of it.
It's the point is that it's like sport, so it's not fair. Okay, is anyone trying to get in? Do we need to wait 1 second? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, ready? Yeah, and speed.
Yeah. At du
More
answer
points
fast.
if you answer fast. So you get double points if you answer this correctly. How many goals chase Pac-Man at the start of the game? True or untrue? So sant is true and sant is untrue. Yeah. Like sports. True or untrue? Double points. Oh. In the book. Last question, double points, of course.
I'm gonna dance, bro. I'm gonna dance. I want my life to be a Whitney Houston song. I got all good luck and
Andrew, where are you? Congratulations on this very expensive book.
It's good that one of the authors have doing well. So.
And the third prize.
All right.
Oh, sorry. I think
the rest of the.
Yeah, I shouldn't have closed it. No.
But I think we should